Need psychotherapy online or in person? Check out tinyurl.com/THT Psychotherapy. The George Brassey Podcast is made possible with funding provided from Brassey Global Strategies, LLC, a leading political consulting, public policy, government affairs, and research firm. Are you interested in running for elected office? Need advice? Call or email George, 708-769-5015. Brassey Global Strategies 1@gmail.com.
Freeze doesn't stop Chicago Heights City Council from taking care of business. Freeze doesn't stop Chicago Heights City Council from taking care of business, Chicago Heights, Illinois, despite some members of the council being absent, freezing weather and meeting remotely due to COVID restrictions. On Tuesday night, the Chicago Heights City Council approved a number of projects to continue moving forward the city's beautification projects. Architectural services. With Alderman Vincent Zaranti sitting in as acting mayor for Mayor David Gonzalez, the council approved an agreement for architectural services with Tria Architecture. Under the $23,000 agreement, Tria will provide a space needs analysis of the municipal garage and water department facilities. The company will analyze existing facilities and determine whether an upgrade or a totally new facility is needed, based on current and future needs. Tria has provided architectural services for other local municipalities such as Country Club Hills, designing its amphitheater, storage and fleet maintenance facilities, and upgrading its recreational center. Morton Arboretum Grant. The council voted to accept an award of $15,000 from the Morton Arboretum, through its Urban and Community Forestry Grant. The grant will pay for a tree inventory of the city. Funding for the grant is provided by the United States Department of Agriculture Forest Service through the Illinois Department of Natural Resources Urban and Community Forestry Program. It offers urban and community forestry grants to municipalities, which are required to pass a tree preservation/protection ordinance before the end of the grant period. Engineering services. The council also approved proposals totaling $842,000 for engineering services for various city infrastructure projects. Chief of Staff Karen Zarant said the projects include sewer and resurfacing work around the city. The council approved an agreement with Grand Capital, North America, LLC, to induce the sale and development of the city-owned real estate at 560 and 570 West Lincoln Highway. Jack Hines, city economic development consultant, said the parcels are the sites of the former Lorenzetti's restaurant and car lot next to it. Grand Rapid Capital has done a number of developments in the city. In other business, Chief of Staff Karen Zarant gave the council an update on January's Illinois Department of Public Health vaccination clinic, hosted by the city. She said about 250 people registered online. The city plans to hold another vaccination clinic, in conjunction with IDPH, in February. Chicago Heights Fire Chief Jeffrey Springer announced the promotion of Captain Tony Mascalino to Assistant Fire Chief. The council approved a redevelopment agreement to induce the sale of the city-owned surplus real estate at 1902 Euclid Avenue, through the city's Abandoned Property Acquisition Program. And the city's city towing services agreement was renewed. Freeze doesn't stop Chicago Heights City Council from taking care of business.
Before we get to the interview, I just want to tell you about our newest sponsor, Union Signs and Printing. Union Signs and Printing is a union sign shop located near Chicago, Illinois, that specializes in the production of corrugated plastic lawn signs used in applications ranging from political and election usages to unions, schools, and businesses. They also produce a vast array of other products, including American-made, union-printed t-shirts, banners, bio cards, literature, door hangers, business cards, and trifold. Get a hold of Union Signs and Printing at 740-1688 or find them on the internet at unionsignsandprinting.com. And don't forget to tell them you heard about their services on the George Brassey podcast. I'm so glad to welcome our next guest to the podcast, Mayor Ron Gardiner. Mayor Gardiner, thanks for coming on the podcast.
I really appreciate the invitation to talk to you. I've enjoyed your podcast with a bunch of people in the past, so I'm honored to be part of it.
Well, and we're honored to have you, Mayor Gardiner. So let's get right down to it. Tell the audience a little bit about your personal relationship with the Village of Glenwood, where you are currently running for re-election.
Well, I grew up in the Village of Glenwood, so Glenwood is in my heart. My parents still live here. My brothers grew up here. My parents instilled public service in all of us, all my brothers and myself, since a young age. My dad was a volunteer firefighter for 35 years here in the village. And my mom was always an election judge and in the PTA, things along those lines. My brother Tom, my oldest brother Tom, was chairman of Prairie State College and on the college board for a number of years, as well as a trustee. My brother Ed was on the library board and also on Prairie State's board. He was chairman too for a while. And my brother Tim was on the District 167 school board. So all my brothers and I have tried to do our best for the improvement of the Village of Glenwood.
The therapist in me really wants to explore the fact that there were four brothers and all four of them ended up in politics at some level.
Yeah, my brother, we've all put our name on a ballot at one time or another. My three older brothers are no longer in. They still volunteer and things along those lines in their respective towns. But they're not serving any longer.
So Mayor Gardiner, before you become mayor, you're a trustee. Talk about what that role was like and how that helps you become a better mayor.
Well, I think when you become a trustee, I served on the Economic Development Committee before I became a trustee. The former mayor, several years ago, Mayor Osselborn is the one that asked me to be on the village board, and I was honored and accepted. And it really opened my eyes to village government. You have a different perspective from, I say the inside, but, just being there, reading all the documentation and seeing where the fiscal health of the town is, where we're spending our money, how the residents feel about things that we're doing in the town. So it's really, it was an eye-opening experience, and it really teaches you how to get along with people, how to get people moving in the direction you want to go. So I found it a very valuable and important position to have prior to going in the leadership position that I'm in now.
Compare and contrast the roles a little bit. Talk about what's been different for you now that you're the mayor as compared to not just being a trustee, but just being a trustee.
Well, I think from the mayor's perspective, you have to blaze a path how you want the village to go and build consensus for people to follow you that direction. But the main thing that I've always found is collaboration and to take people's ideas to form them in a cohesive position so that it makes sense. You get a lot of people with a lot of different ideas, which is fantastic. But you have to take all those good ideas and you have to, put them together and take all those ingredients and bake the pie so the pie comes out tasting good. So I think that's one of the main differences between being a trustee. You really have to get people together and try and form a bunch of different ideas, and there's always great ideas. But to get that consensus and get everybody moving in the right direction.
Mayor, talk a little bit about your career in the private sector.
Well, I started out banking when I was really young. I started at Heritage Glenwood Bank. It's now Fifth Third. It went through a couple incarnations. It was Heritage Community Bank, and then it was MB Financial, and then it finally was Fifth Third. But I started out my banking career there in high school after actually working at the Sizzler, where the Boston market is now in Halstead. So I've been in banking. I was in banking for a very long period of time. Worked at several different banks, and I really enjoyed my experience at the bank. I put in a lot of time and effort and hours in that. I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I was actually a vice president of a bank when I was 24 years old. So it took a lot of time and effort, and I really enjoyed my banking career. And it was it really taught me a lot of things from the lending perspective, from development perspective, as far as businesses go. Sitting on loan committees and boards to make decisions on where to fund different projects, what makes sense, why things don't make sense, how to put a deal together so it makes sense for everybody, so it's a win-win for everybody. Dealing with people and all sorts of different different perspectives, from businesses to government agencies and to any number of different type of clients that I had to deal with when I was in the banking industry. And I really enjoyed, and I have lifelong friends that are still in the banking industry. I switched to law, a little later, probably a little bit over a decade ago, and I enjoy that too. So I have a wide range of perspectives and a wide range of knowledge on things that I think are important to running the Village of Glenwood.
Mayor Gardiner, what is the biggest challenge you face so far as mayor of Glenwood?
Well, COVID-19 has been the biggest challenge for everybody. We're lucky that we've been in a very good fiscal position. We've always set it up that way. We didn't lay off any employees. We didn't have to, except for at Glenwoody, we had to, banquets were shut down, so we did have to lay off the banquet manager out there. But otherwise, we were able to keep everybody employed due to our fiscal condition with reserves. We set up a capital fund years ago for improvements that we need to do. We got almost $500,000 in that fund. So, but it really was this COVID-19 kind of caught everybody by shock, both from, just a human perspective, from people that had to go through this, lives were lost, which is obviously the most important thing. And from the fiscal perspective, real estate taxes were delayed. Retail tax revenue was diminished somewhat. So, that was probably it was out of left field. So that's probably the biggest challenge that we've had so far. But we overcame it, and obviously vaccines are coming out now, and we've turned the corner, I think. But everybody still has to be very, very cautious, wear their mask, socially distance, wash your hands, that type of stuff, because COVID-19 is nothing that you can play with. It's a serious health issue.
Mayor Gardiner, there seems to be some new development going on Halstead. Talk about that.
Yeah, it's exciting. The village settled a lawsuit for the Glenwood Plaza. Like I said, I used to work in that plaza many years ago when it was Heritage Glenwood Bank, and the plaza was thriving. As people know, a couple decades ago, it really started to fall apart. And the owners of that plaza decided to sue the village. We were in a protracted lawsuit for years. And it really was a stain on the Village of Glenwood. Coming into the Village of Glenwood from Homewood, coming south on Halstead, to see a dilapidated plaza falling down, empty stores, etc., was not a good look for the village. It depressed prices both in the estates, which is on the west side of Halstead, and the manor on the east side of Halstead, because it is the gateway to our town. So we settled that lawsuit and put infrastructure in. That took a while because, you have to get approval from MWRD for storage and things along those lines. So we really have a lot of great momentum there. We built a brand new Burger King there. We built a brand new facility, which is the Anytime Fitness and Good Vets. And the most exciting thing, we actually just have a contract right now on the existing structure there with washland located in it. So that's going to be sold. That's been approved by the board. And the most exciting thing we have in that plaza now is a brew pub. So the brew pub is going to have a restaurant in there. It's going to have some retail space. And it's going to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's going to have a rooftop bar, which is, it's the wave of the future as far as downtown bars and things along those lines. Everybody wants to spend outside under the stars eating, or even during the day enjoying the fresh air. So that's a very exciting addition to the Glenwood Plaza. So we have a lot of momentum, a lot of interest in it, and I think you're going to see some exciting things coming there soon.
The Village of Glenwood's also been exploring different water options. Can you speak a little bit about those?
Yeah, I mean, we have a contract with Chicago Heights, and they purchase their water through Hammond. And Hammond, many years ago, when the water rates, Chicago increased their water rates, Hammond came out and basically said that they were going to charge 88% of whatever Chicago charges and pass that on to their customers. Well, it wasn't great timing for us because our 30-year contract was up. And when we signed the contract, we were subject to those increased rates. We renewed the contract and have a contract into the 2030s. But we did look at options because right now, our water rates are subject to, what Hammond is going to charge us. So we've looked at a bunch of different sources. We're not going to go back to well water. Well water is what I grew up with here in Glenwood, and it is not an alternative to what we need to do. They can, I know currently they have a lot of chemistry that they can improve the water, but I know it's not what the residents want, so we're not even going to take a look at well water. So SWA is a government agency that was formed by several different communities in the area. And they have a government agency, and they are going to have a direct supply of water from Lake Michigan and bring it to Glenwood. We signed up to it because the people that are signed up with the SWA, the first ones to sign up, are guaranteed 5% lower rates than what we're being charged now through the first 10 years. And there are caps after the 10 years of what we can be charged. So our investment is $67,000, of which we had to pay $35,000. And over the next 3 years, we have to pay the entire dollar amount. We had a couple house closings from some government liens that were on the property that we didn't anticipate, and they came at the absolute correct time so that we were able to use those funds to fund our commitment to the SWA. But we don't have any commitment as far as borrowing, as far as bonding. So we don't have any long-term financial commitment other than purchasing water from the SWA, which will be guaranteed at a lower rate than what we're paying now. And so I think it's and the one thing that, it's a long-term commitment, but, people that signed up in 1983 for the Lake Michigan water that we did then, that was a 30-year commitment. And I guarantee we would have been happy if it was a 50-year commitment, because after 30 years, the rates went through the roof.
Mayor Gardiner, one of your opponents, Trustee Adam Winston, is a alumni of this podcast. Tell the audience why you feel you're a better choice for the Village of Glenwood in the April election.
Well, I've given a commitment to the Village of Glenwood and a commitment to the South suburbs, because I think as the South suburbs go, so does the Village of Glenwood. I've taken leadership positions in a number of different agencies, local agencies like the Glenwood Lions Club. I was president there, as president when we had a United Way here in Glenwood. So I've given back to a lot of philanthropic organizations. I was the past chairman of the Chicago Southland Chamber of Commerce, and I'm on their executive committee. I'm in the executive committee for the South Suburban Mayors and Managers, serving as secretary now. I was treasurer. And I'm also on the board for the South Suburban Land Bank. So I think I give a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge in government. And I think I give a lot of experience both in the business and private sector. And I really, truly care about the Village of Glenwood.
Mayor Gardiner, one of the last questions we always ask our guests is, what are 2 books you would recommend to the audience that have been influential to you, and why?
I do read a lot. Since I've been mayor, I have to admit I do read more publications, read more ordinance, more, read a lot of different things regarding government. Legislation from the state, legislation from the county, obviously ordinances that we're putting on the books here in Glenwood. You have to read all the periodicals as far as cranes, and read the Sun-Times, the Tribune, the Southland Voice, Daily Southtown. So I read a lot of local, but I do go back and read, brush up on some books. I'd love to read more. I always go back to The Habits of Highly Effective People. I'm dating myself because that's from a long time ago by Stephen Covey. But I still go back and read that to brush up from time to time. I'd like to read the classics. My wife actually bought Michelle Obama's book Becoming. I did read a couple chapters of that. So I read a lot. Sitting down and reading a book from cover to cover, I really don't do as often as I would like.
I agree. Same way. One thing that's helped me a lot, and this isn't an ad, but is audible.com through Amazon is a great resource if you want to get audiobooks.
Oh, good. I'll have to look on that.
Mayor Gardiner, tell the audience where they can find you on the internet and when the election is.
Okay. Well, the election's April 6th. Obviously, early voting is before that. I do want to, mention the fantastic people that I'm running with on the Glenwood First Party. I'm running with Sandra Washington. She's running as village clerk. She brings 2 decades of experience at administrative and personnel roles, including at Fortune 500 companies. Talita Hart's running as trustee. She currently serves as the village treasurer. So she's responsible for managing the village's finances. And she puts together the financial reports and all the revenues and expenses and things along those lines for the village. And she's on both Sandra and Talita on the Brookwood District 167 school board, which I'm alum by the way. And Talita is also the president and CEO of a successful and growing child welfare organization, NYSI. Our current village clerk is on my slate. He's a state of Illinois probation officer with the Cook County Circuit Court Domestic Violence Unit. So he's running as trustee, and he's also oversees the financing and accounting for a non-for-profit Touch Heart Ministries, where he serves as the president. And Ron Clark, he's a long-term resident of the town, and he's running for re-election as a trustee. He's a retired lieutenant commander with the Cook County Sheriff's Office, and he served in the U.S. Army. So I think I have a great, strong team that really cares about the Village of Glenwood, and looks for their long-term progress. You can always take a look at us. We're at glenwoodfirst.com. We'd really appreciate everybody's vote. We do have Glenwood in our hearts and only do what we think is best for the Village of Glenwood.
Mayor Gardiner, thank you so much for coming on my podcast and sharing a little bit about yourself.
No problem. Thanks, George.
Take care.
Help George stay on the Chicago Heights City Council. Go and donate today at tinyurl.com/AldermanGeorge 2023. Need more George? Like his pages on Facebook. Friends of George Brassey PAC, Fifth Ward Business Alliance, Chicago Heights Bicycle and Pedestrian Resource Center, and the George Brassey Podcast.